Welcome to our channel, $1,000,000 Made Easy. On this channel, we love to run numbers for people, and I'm always looking at what the financial headlines are saying in different financial publications. I recently saw this. The average American is nowhere near ready for retirement. I know a lot of people think they need to have $1,000,000 before they can retire. I just want to maybe give you some hope here. Let's say, for example, you're 37 years old and you've been able to accumulate $45,000 in your IRAs, your 401ks, or whatever. That's what your nest egg is for investments. And say you're making $60,000 a year and you can save 8%. That'd be $400 a month. And you can increase that by 3% a year because each year hopefully your income's going to go up and you're going to increase that. So these actually show the numbers of what you would have if the returns were like 1924. Again, they're not going to be identical, but we use the actual historical returns. We project what similar returns might do for you in the future, and they provide us with a possible range of what may happen in the future. So if the numbers were like 1924, fairly close, these are the returns going down through. You can see they hit the depression years. You see the amounts going in, increasing by 3% a year. This would be the balance, and this is a summary box for the 1924 numbers. So if you're 37 years old and you're working until full Social Security retirement age of 67, in this case, you'd have 1.689. We can pick any of these other numbers. This one would be 3 million, whatever. We're going to go ahead and update this every single year, which is going to include the worst years in the last 100 years for a 30-year period. In the black row across here, you can see the amount that's put in over that 30-year period, and it'd be 273,362. If you go down through, again, these are the returns for every single year. The worst case scenario you're going to find, the lowest amount you're going to see in this column for a 30-year period is 1.517 million. The median in this column is 2.238, and the maximum you can find is 5.351. So that's the range we're talking about here, from 1.5 million to 5.3 million, and that, of course, being in the median. Now, we always like to take into account inflation, because right here, yeah, you'd be a millionaire, but it wouldn't have the same buying power. I don't want you to be discouraged by that, even though it looks like you'd have this kind of amount with these kind of numbers. But if you take into account a 3% inflation rate, the corresponding numbers, the buying power of this right here would be 625,000. The median buying power of 2.238 would have 922,000, so on. You can use any of these right here. But I want to take this over because it looks like, okay, I don't have $1,000,000. But how would it actually work out if you had these numbers? You had this amount, but it had the buying power of this right here because of inflation. I'm going to go over here and show you the numbers going through with the same numbers. 45,000, increasing that by $400 a month. Putting in $400 a month, increasing that by 3% a year. Scroll up here to show you. There's the numbers right there. The same ones we were just looking at. And in the worst case scenario, also we're using expected expenses of $6,000 a month in today's dollars, which if you take into account inflation over the next 30 years with a 3% inflation rate, you're going to need 14,564 to have the same buying power as this right here. It sounds pretty discouraging, I know, but I want you to bear with me. This 1907, which is the average Social Security, again, I'm just having to go by averages. We can run all kinds of different numbers. This 1907 is also going to be growing. That's the nice thing about Social Security. They promise you 1907 right now at age 67, but after 30 years, they usually increase this. It's not quite 3%, probably about 2.5%. Some years, obviously, you got up to 9% a few years ago. But 2.5%, after 30 years is 1907. By the time you reach age 67, that's going to have a $4,000 buying power. So that's how I got 4,000 right there. Could have a pension, you could have other income, but we take these expenses, which is what it's going to accumulate to with inflation. Take this, what it's going to accumulate with inflation. You're going to need 10,564 from your nest egg. Bear with me, we're showing you something here. So at the end of 30 years, in the worst possible year, in the last 100 years, you'd have 1.517 million. Does that look familiar? There it is right there. This is the worst case scenario in this 30-year column, but I want you to follow through with this. This 1,517,000, you start taking money out this 10,564, which is right there, and that's growing by 3% a year. Where would you be? How soon would you run out of money? Folks, you wouldn't run out of money. Your money would last you over 40 years. I'm just trying to give you some hope here. Now, if you start taking Social Security a little bit earlier, then you might have some problems. Like if you took it at age 64, you're running out of money in 28 years in that case. Why? Because you have only 27 years for this Social Security to grow. Plus, you're only getting 80% of that. You take it at age 62, now you got these worst case scenarios where you're actually running out of money. I've got the worst, second worst, fifth worst, 10th worst, and 20th worst. In other words, 90% of the time you do better than this, 80% of the time you be better than this. But that's if you take it early. Why? Because now you only have 25 years for this Social Security to grow. So you would only have 25 here, right here, this 1907. So you'd be getting 35, 35 for your full retirement, but you're not taking in a full retirement. You're going to get 70%. You're going to get 24.75. Your expenses wouldn't be quite as much over 25 years as opposed to 30 years, but you're going to need 10,088. So you're going to have less money, and you can be taking out money sooner. So in that case, you would run out of money in 12 years. But again, these are the worst case scenarios. We're just running numbers. If you waited till age 67, your money would last over 40 years. But again, we're just using numbers that we just made up here, just kind of maybe give you an encouragement that it's not as bad as you think if you have like 30 years left until retirement. Obviously, if you have more than that, it's even better because this kind of shows you the graph. If you can be in them for 30, 35, 40 years, these are the kind of graphs we're talking about. Let's look at the 35-year graph here real quick. Just look how it goes up. I mean, in the worst case scenario there is 2.7 million and so on. But again, we were looking at somebody that was age 37, not 32. But that's what we love to do for people. We love to run numbers for people just to give them some kind of hope that, if you've got 25 or 30 years and you start getting serious about this, start getting in some serious money here, you're going to be okay. You don't have to have $1 million. Even though in 30 years it might look like you have $1 million, the buying power, you don't have the buying power here was 625,000. Did you run out of money? No, because Social Security is such a blessing to have because it also goes up. Maybe not quite the rate of inflation. I ran it at 2.5%, but that's what we do on this channel. We run all kinds of different numbers for people. If you want me to run your numbers, just give me these criteria: your beginning balance, your monthly contribution, whether you want to increase that, and how long you want me to run it for. It's really good if we have 30 to 35 to 40 years. We'll run it for any amount of time. But please consider subscribing to this channel. Please share this channel with others. Let them know there's a channel out there that will run numbers for them. Maybe give them some hope that they aren't really as far behind as they might think if they have 25, 30 or more years. I want to thank you for watching.